Amanda, a single mother working long hours as a taxi driver, found an elderly man collapsed on the street and rushed him to the hospital. Just an hour later, a shocking turn awaited her. An ambulance was parked outside her house, doctors and paramedics seemingly waiting for her. Little did she know her simple act of kindness would transform her life and her son's future in ways she never imagined. Hi everyone, welcome back to Unveiled Narratives. Today I have another heartfelt story to share with you. Thanks. Have a great night, Amanda said with a warm smile as her passenger handed her a tip. Thank you, the elderly passenger replied softly, his hand trembling slightly as he opened the door. He stepped out and walked a few unsteady steps away, and Amanda watched him for a moment. The door closed with a soft thud, and she let out a small sigh of relief. Another ride completed. She glanced at the crumpled bills in her hand and quickly counted them. A satisfied smile spread across her face as she folded the money carefully and tucked it into her purse. With this tip, her week of saving was finally completed. It wasn't just any savings. It was for Liam, her 10-year-old son. His birthday was tomorrow, and he'd been wishing to celebrate it at the amusement park. Amanda had promised him that this year she'd make it happen. As a single mother, Amanda worked tirelessly to give her son the childhood he deserved. Every ride she took, every tip she saved, was for him. It hadn't been easy. Saving enough for the park tickets, the gift, and a small celebration had taken her a full week. But tomorrow she'd finally see Liam's face light up with joy, and that made every effort worthwhile. Amanda felt a moment of quiet satisfaction as she tucked the tip into her purse, imagining her son's happiness the next day. As Amanda adjusted her seatbelt and prepared to pull away, her eyes shifted to the rearview mirror. Her heart skipped a beat. The elderly man she had just dropped off was no longer walking. He was on the ground, his frail hand raised weakly, as if signaling for help. Without a moment's hesitation, she turned off the engine, opened the door, and rushed to his side. His breathing was shallow, his face pale, and his body looked unnaturally still. Amanda quickly pulled out her phone and dialed 911, the operator informing her that an ambulance would take 10 to 15 minutes to arrive. Glancing at the man's frail form, she knew he didn't have that much time. Luckily, the hospital was only a few minutes away. Realizing there wasn't a second to spare, Amanda decided to take matters into her own hands. Steadying herself, she carefully helped the man into a sitting position. Though weak, he leaned on her for support as she guided him back to the taxi. Once he was settled in the back seat, Amanda rushed to the hospital, her hands gripping the wheel tightly as she prayed she wasn't too late. Amanda pulled up to the hospital's emergency entrance and hurried to help the elderly man out of the car. He leaned heavily on her as they made their way inside. Nurses immediately came forward, helping her guide him into a wheelchair. A doctor joined them, quickly assessing the man's condition. "What happened?" one of the nurses asked. "I found him fainting on the street," Amanda explained breathlessly. "He was walking just fine earlier, but then he collapsed." The nurses nodded, wheeling the man toward the treatment area. Amanda stood frozen for a moment, watching as they disappeared behind the swinging double doors. She let out a shaky breath, her heart still pounding from the rush to get him there in time. In the now quiet reception area, Amanda finally allowed herself to sit down. She leaned back in the hard plastic chair, exhaustion settling into her body. The events of the night had unfolded so fast that she barely had time to process them. A nurse approached her a few minutes later, clipboard in hand. "Hi, are you the one who brought the gentleman in?" "Yes," Amanda replied, straightening up. "Well, his condition is stable," the nurse said with a reassuring smile. "It's nothing life-threatening, likely exhaustion combined with low blood pressure." She glanced briefly at her clipboard. "However, he does need some immediate care, basic tests and medication to help him recover." After a short pause, she added, "Unfortunately, he doesn't seem to have anyone with him to handle the costs. Would you be willing to assist? It's not a large amount, but we need to proceed quickly." Amanda's breath caught in her throat. Her hand instinctively moved to her purse, where the week's savings sat neatly folded. That money was for Liam, for the amusement park tickets, the gift, and the small celebration she'd promised him. She could already picture his face lighting up with joy, his laughter as he explored the rides and attractions. She looked down at her purse, fingers hovering over the clasp. It felt like the weight of the entire world was pressing down on her. But then her mind flashed back to the elderly man's frail body, the way he had raised his trembling hand for help. Amanda closed her eyes briefly, took a deep breath, and nodded. "Yes, I'll help." The nurse smiled kindly. "Thank you. I'll make sure everything is handled quickly." Amanda handed over the money, her heart heavy but resolute. She reminded herself that this was the right thing to do. Someone's health and safety mattered more than a single day of celebration. As the nurse walked away, Amanda leaned back in her chair, staring blankly at the floor. A knot of guilt and sadness twisted in her stomach as she thought about tomorrow. How would she tell Liam that the amusement park was no longer an option? How would she explain that all the money she'd worked so hard to save was gone? She pulled out her phone and scrolled through old pictures of Liam. One photo, taken last year on his birthday, showed him holding a cupcake with a single lit candle, his smile beaming brighter than any party decorations ever could. Amanda's lips curved into a faint smile. Maybe she couldn't give him the big day she'd planned, but she could still make it special in her own way. A while later, the doctor emerged from the treatment area, walking toward Amanda. "The man is stable now," he said. "It was nothing too serious. His blood pressure dropped due to fatigue and dehydration, but he's responding well to treatment. He'll be discharged once he's rested a little more." Amanda felt a wave of relief wash over her. "That's good to hear," she replied softly. The doctor paused, meeting her gaze. "He asked about the person who brought him in," he said. "He wanted me to thank you on his behalf. It seems like you really went out of your way to help him." Amanda offered a small, humble smile, shaking her head. "It was the least I could do," she murmured. She started toward the exit, her body heavy with exhaustion. Her shift was over, and it was well past midnight. All she wanted now was to get home. Liam would be waiting for her, even if he had likely fallen asleep by now. The thought of her son brought a small flicker of warmth to her otherwise tired mind. Just before reaching the exit door, Amanda paused, a sudden thought stopping her in her tracks. Turning back, she reached into her purse and pulled out one of her taxi business cards. Approaching the nurse at the reception desk, she extended the card with a gentle smile. "If he or anyone in his family needs anything, please let me know," Amanda said. "I don't live far, and I'd be happy to help in any way I can." The nurse took the card, her expression softening with gratitude. "That's very kind of you. I'll make sure they get this." After leaving the hospital, Amanda made her way to her sister Lisa's house to pick up Liam. The quiet streets offered a brief moment to reflect, though her mind was heavy with the events of the night. Like many working parents, she often relied on Lisa to watch Liam during her late-night shifts, knowing he would be safe and cared for. As she turned into the driveway and parked, she took a deep breath, trying to shake off her exhaustion before stepping out. Liam ran to her as soon as she arrived, his face glowing with excitement. Amanda couldn't help but smile as she hugged him, though her thoughts were clouded with worry. She could see how much he was looking forward to tomorrow. His cheerful energy filled the car as they drove home, and he talked nonstop about the amusement park, about the rides, the games, and how much fun it would be. Amanda listened quietly, her hands gripping the wheel a little tighter. She didn't want to dampen his happiness, but she knew she had to tell him the truth. The money she had worked so hard to save was gone, used to help the elderly man at the hospital. She couldn't take him to the amusement park as promised, at least not tomorrow. As they neared home, Amanda's thoughts raced. She rehearsed what she would say to Liam, trying to find the right words to explain everything without breaking his heart. She didn't want to see the joy on his face fade, but she knew there was no way around it. Just as their house came into view, Amanda noticed flashing red and blue lights ahead. Her stomach sank as she saw an ambulance parked in front of her door, its lights casting harsh patterns across the dark street. She slowed the car, her pulse quickening. Something was wrong. Liam clutched her hand tightly as they stepped out. his earlier excitement now replaced with quiet confusion. As they approached, Amanda saw doctors and paramedics standing near the ambulance, waiting as if they had expecting her. Then, a well-dressed man standing beside the stretcher stepped forward to meet her. "Miss Amanda?" the man said, his tone warm but serious. "I'm James, this gentleman's son. My father insisted we come here tonight to thank you personally. He told me about your kindness earlier today, how you didn't hesitate to help him in his time of need." Amanda glanced at the elderly man, who gave her a weak smile as he thanking her with his eyes. The doctors and paramedics remained nearby, ready to assist if needed, their presence a precaution to ensure his safety as they transported him back to the hospital. James reached into his coat and held out an envelope. "My father wanted to show his gratitude in a meaningful way. Please accept this. It's a small gesture of thanks for what you've done." Amanda hesitated, her hands trembling as she opened the envelope. Inside was a check with an amount so large it took her breath away. She stared at it, struggling to process what she was holding. I can't take this. I didn't help him expecting anything in return," she said, trying to hand the envelope back. James gently placed the envelope back into her hands. "You didn't expect anything, and that's exactly why you deserve it. This is for you and your son, to make life a little easier." The elderly man met her eyes and gave a gentle nod, his expression warm and encouraging, as if silently urging her to accept. Amanda looked down at the envelope, her fingers brushing its edges as if trying to confirm it was real. A mix of relief and disbelief settled over her. She nodded, her voice soft but steady. Thank you so much. I don't know what to say." James offered a small smile. "You don't have to say anything, just accept it." The elder man smiled back, his gratitude shining through his tired eyes. The doctors moved to help him back into the ambulance, leaving Amanda with a moment of quiet reflection. That night, as the ambulance pulled away and silence settled over the street, Amanda stood still for a moment, the weight of the evening sinking in. The kindness she had given without a second thought had returned to her in a way she never could have imagined. For the first time in a long while, hope replaced the constant worry in her heart. The check in her hands wasn't just money, it was a chance to give Liam the life he deserved. She could see his dreams take shape, free from struggle, and offer him the childhood every child should have, one filled with warmth, joy, and opportunity. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us share more inspiring tales like this one. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.
Frank had spent 20 years of his life serving in the Marines. He was a brave and courageous soldier who had seen the horrors of war firsthand. He missed the sense of purpose and camaraderie that he had in the military, and he struggled with the transition to civilian society. Frank's difficulty adjusting to civilian life was compounded by the fact that he didn't have any prior experience with managing finances. He found himself struggling to make ends meet and was constantly worried about money. As time went on, Frank became increasingly isolated and lonely. He struggled to connect with others and found himself turning to alcohol as a way to cope with his feelings of isolation and stress. This only made matters worse, and Frank found himself spiraling out of control. Eventually, Frank lost his housing, which he had waited 6 years to get. He was now homeless and living on the streets, with nothing but the clothes on his back and a few coins that he managed to beg for each day. Frank felt like he had hit rock bottom and didn't know how to get back on his feet. Frank meandered through the well-known streets of his hometown, his thoughts stuck in a loop, replaying a particular day from his past. It was a day he lost a comrade during a special operation, and he couldn't shake the memory. His mind was like a hamster wheel, always spinning until he turned to alcohol to escape the pain. As he strolled by a row of shops, his attention was drawn to a hair salon, its bright sign a beacon against the gray backdrop of the street. Frank caught his own reflection in the window, and he stopped in his tracks, momentarily stunned by what he saw. The man staring back at him was a far cry from the soldier he once was. His hair was overgrown and unkempt, and his beard had grown to a length that obscured his features. Frank felt a pang of shame, realizing how far he had fallen. He had become one of the many homeless veterans who roamed the streets, forgotten by society and left to fend for himself. As he continued to stare at his reflection, Frank felt a sense of determination wash over him. He knew he needed to make a change, to reclaim his dignity and start anew, but the path ahead was uncertain, and he wondered if he had the strength to face it. With a few begged coins clutched tightly in his hand, Frank hesitated outside the hair salon, uncertain if he had enough. Summoning the courage to enter, he was met with disdainful looks from the staff, one of whom even wrinkled her nose and commented on his odor. Frank felt embarrassed and ashamed as he tried to explain the situation. I'm sorry. I know I don't smell great, but do you think you could give me a quick buzz cut? He said softly. Olivia rolled her eyes and shook her head. Sorry, buddy, we're not a charity here. You should try looking for cans in the trash instead, she said, pointing to a nearby bin. Feeling embarrassed and dejected, Frank turned to leave the salon. As he was about to walk out the door, he heard one of the girls snicker and whisper something to her colleague. What a loser, the girl said, loud enough for Frank to hear. I can't believe he even thought we would let him in here looking like that. The other girls laughed along with her, making Frank feel even more ashamed. Frank took a deep breath and tried to hold back his tears as he walked away from the salon. He couldn't help but feel like he didn't belong in this world anymore. He had given his all to his country, and this was how he was treated. It was a harsh reality that he had to face every day. Frank went out without saying anything back because he saw no point in reacting to something he was already used to. When he was outside, a young girl walked towards the salon. Rachel took one look at Frank and said, "Nice hairstyle, sir." She thought he had already gotten a haircut. "Thanks, but I don't really like it." Frank laughed and walked past her. Rachel was confused. "Sir, you just came out of our salon. Would you like to get your hair redone?" Frank stopped and looked at her with a smile on his face for a while. "Thank you, sweetheart. Your friends didn't have time for me," Frank said, trying not to blame them. Rachel thought it was strange because there were two available hairstylists. "Sir, come on in. I'll fix your hair," Rachel offered. Frank sighed and felt like he was forced to tell her what really happened. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, sir. I just got to work. Let me give you a nice one to make it up. I'm full of energy right now." Rachel smiled. "I'm sorry, honey, but I can't even pay you. I only got a quarter and a dime. Do you think you could just give me a buzz cut?" "Sure, sir. Come on in. I can give you a buzz cut if you want to, but I think I can give you something else that you will really like." Rachel smiled and asked Frank to come in, holding the door. Rachel and Frank walked into the salon. Olivia couldn't help but notice them and let out a slight groan. "Oh, here we go again," she thought to herself. Rachel, oblivious to Olivia's reaction, walked over to the receptionist and greeted her with a smile. "Hey Tina, can you please call the lady that had an appointment for 10 and ask if she can come later? Like say 11:20? She asked cheerfully. "Why? What happened?" Tina asked. "Oh, I've got a client here." Rachel looked at Frank. Tina looked Frank up and down. "We kicked this guy out just before he came in. What did he tell you to get you to do his hair?" Tina asked. "Hey, Tina, take it easy, alright?" "Jesus," Rachel replied, taking off her jacket. "Rachel, you sound like you know this bum. Why do you even care? Or is he your father?" Tina asked and laughed. Rachel looked up at her anger building up. But then she remembered that she needed to control her emotions and not go down on her level. She sighed and said, "Sure. What if he is my father? What then?" Frank stood there not knowing what to do. He didn't want to cause any trouble or get them to call the police. He just wanted to leave at that moment. Olivia walked out from another room. She saw Frank standing there and sighed. "What are you doing here? Didn't I tell you to stay away from here?" Rachel turned to Olivia, a bit surprised. "Oh, hi, Olivia. How are you?" she asked, trying to make small talk. Olivia put on a fake smile. "I'm fine, thanks," she replied before turning back to her magazine. Rachel, sensing the tension in the air, decided to just ignore Olivia and focused on her client. The girls continued to make unpleasant comments and Rachel tried to reason with them, but it only made the situation worse. Frank could see how upset Rachel was getting and apologized for causing trouble. "I'm so sorry, Rachel. I'm just gonna take off. I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. Thank you so much." Frank got up and began to leave. No, sir, you have done nothing wrong. These girls need to learn some manners and not judge people based on their appearance, Rachel was shouting at girls. You guys are pathetic. I can't believe I've been working with you. Rachel was furious. She grabbed her jacket and left, slamming the door. Rachel, sweetheart, I'm so sorry about what happened. Frank was apologetic. It's been just 2 weeks, sir. It's not a big deal. I will manage. And I'm still gonna make sure you get a haircut, alright? Rachel was determined. They left the salon and Rachel offered to go to her place where she could give him a nice haircut. After Rachel was done cutting Frank's hair, she suggested, "You can take a shower and relax a bit." Frank hesitated at first, but eventually agreed, feeling grateful for Rachel's kindness. As he took a warm shower, he couldn't help but feel overwhelmed by the feeling of being clean again after such a long time. Wow, this feels amazing, he thought to himself. When he stepped out of the shower, Frank was surprised at how much better he looked with a new haircut and trimmed beard. He stood in front of the mirror for a while, admiring his reflection and feeling a newfound sense of confidence. But as he continued to look at himself, he suddenly felt a wave of sadness wash over him. This is how I used to look before I became homeless, he thought, his eyes swelling up with tears. Rachel noticed Frank's sudden change in demeanor and approached him with concern. Hey, are you okay? She asked softly, placing a comforting hand on his shoulder. Frank wiped away his tears and managed a small smile. Yeah, I'm fine. It's just, I never realized how much I had lost until now, he said, his voice breaking a little. Rachel nodded understandingly. I get it, but remember, this is just the beginning. You can get back on your feet and have a better life again, she said, giving him a supportive hug. Frank felt a glimmer of hope in his heart, grateful for Rachel's words of encouragement. Thank you, feeling a renewed sense of determination to turn his life around. As they sat together sipping coffee, Frank told Rachel his story and how he ended up on the streets. Rachel was moved by Frank's story and realized how many people like him could be struggling on the streets. Rachel pondered how she could use her time productively now. After all, she wasn't going back to the salon. She wasn't that good yet, and therefore still on probation. She looked at Frank, and it dawned on her. Mr. Nash, do you know a lot of people that are homeless? Rachel asked suddenly. Yeah, I know a few, Frank replied. Rachel had an idea to practice her hairstyling skills by giving haircuts to homeless people for free. As she considered this, she thought it might be helpful to have some company and turned to Frank. Mr. Nash, she said, I know this is a bit unconventional, but would you like to join me in going around and offering haircuts to those in need? Frank, with plenty of time on his hands, readily agreed. Rachel and Frank approached their first customer for their new initiative, a homeless man named Mark, who happened to be a longtime friend of Frank's. As they made their way over to him, Mark was caught off guard and surprised to see Rachel with Frank, but he didn't initially recognize Frank due to his neat attire. It wasn't often that someone dressed so nicely would even acknowledge him, let alone strike up a conversation. Hey Mark, how's it going? Frank greeted him warmly. Mark was taken aback. Frank, is that really you? Frank laughed. Yeah man, it's me. Listen, Rachel and I are starting a new project, and we thought you might be interested. Mark looked skeptical. What kind of project? We're giving free haircuts to homeless people in the area, Rachel chimed in. Mark's eyes widened in surprise. Wow, that's really kind of you guys. Most people just ignore us or avoid us altogether. We're not most people, Frank said with a grin. So what do you say? Want a trim? Mark hesitated for a moment before finally nodding his head. Sure, why not? Can't remember the last time I got a haircut. Rachel and Frank exchanged a look of excitement as they began to set up their makeshift salon. It was just the beginning of what they hoped would be a meaningful and impactful project. As they worked, they discovered something surprising. Many of these people were skilled professionals who had fallen on hard times. They met former engineers, chefs, and even a former lawyer. Inspired by the resilience and talents of the people they met, Rachel began sharing their stories on social media, hoping to raise awareness about the issue of homelessness. To her surprise, the posts went viral, and soon social media users from all over were donating money to their cause. With these funds, Rachel and Frank were able to expand their outreach, offering not only haircuts but also job training, resume building, and networking opportunities to the homeless individuals they encountered. They were determined to help people get back on their feet and reclaim their lives. In just under 2 months, Frank and Rachel had made remarkable progress in their mission to help the homeless. With the support of generous donors and their tireless efforts, they were able to assist many people in need. The work had also helped Frank. He was no longer living on the streets and had a newfound sense of purpose. Rachel recognized Frank's dedication and hard work and offered them a place to stay and help with their growing charity. Together, they decided to establish a non-profit organization dedicated to helping the homeless community. The charity gained momentum quickly, with more volunteers and donations pouring in each day. Rachel's passion and leadership skills soon made her the natural choice to lead the organization, and she became its chairwoman. Frank took on an administrative role, helping to manage the day-to-day operations and ensuring that the charity stayed true to its mission of helping people get back on their feet. Together, they continued to make a positive impact on the lives of those who had fallen on hard times. Once, Frank and Rachel were enjoying a peaceful afternoon lounging on the grassy lawn of the park. Frank had a content smile on his face as he reflected on his work. "This kind of work reminds me of my days in the Marines," he said. "I love being part of a team and working alongside truly loyal people." Rachel sat beside him, appearing more subdued than usual. Frank noticed her demeanor and grew concerned. "Is everything okay, Rachel?" Rachel took a deep breath, gathering her courage before confiding in Frank. "My dad was actually killed when he was in the Marines," she revealed, her voice soft and trembling with emotion. Frank's expression softened as he reached out to comfort her. "I'm so sorry, Rachel. That must have been incredibly difficult for you." Rachel nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "It was, but talking to you about it actually helps. It's not something I usually talk about." Frank nodded in understanding. "I get it. It's not easy to open up about something like that, but I'm here for you, Rachel. You can always talk to me." Rachel managed a small smile through her tears, feeling grateful for Frank's kind words and support. "Thank you, Frank. That means a lot." Ever since Rachel's father passed away, she had been searching for people who had served in the Marines. She believed that listening to their stories would bring back fond memories of her father's pride and eventually help her overcome her grief. What Frank didn't know was that when Rachel first saw Frank, she knew he was a former Marine based on his behavior and mannerisms. Their friendship deepened, strengthened by their shared experiences and their commitment to making a positive impact in the world. They knew that together, they could accomplish great things and help many people in need. As Rachel and Frank walked home from work one day, they happened to pass by the hair salon where Frank was denied a haircut. Memories flooded back to them, and Frank couldn't help but stop and look at the place. "Remember this place?" Frank asked, a smile spreading across his face. "Of course I do," Rachel replied with a grin. "This is where it all began." Just then, Olivia came outside and saw Rachel and Frank standing there. She looked at Rachel with a sneer and addressed Frank. "Is this woman bothering you, Mr. Nash?" Rachel was taken aback by Olivia's hostility and looked at Frank with a puzzled expression. "Not at all, Olivia," Frank said with a smile. "In fact, Rachel is the new owner of the salon." Olivia's face fell. She didn't understand what was going on, but a moment later, she realized that the man she had previously kicked out of the salon was the same man who had bought it. She felt embarrassed and ashamed of her behavior towards Frank, and Rachel could see the guilt written all over her face. Olivia hesitated for a moment before speaking. "I'm sorry for how I treated you before, Mr. Nash," she said and ran back inside. She didn't know whether to stay or leave. Rachel was taken aback by the unexpected turn of events. It transpired that Frank and some of his fellow charity workers had been on the lookout for a hair salon that would cater to everyone, regardless of their background or financial situation. They had come across the owner of the salon who was struggling and expressed her willingness to sell it. Frank and his team seized the opportunity and decided to gift the salon to Rachel as a token of appreciation for her hard work and dedication. When Frank shared the news with Rachel, she was overwhelmed and couldn't believe what she was hearing. "You guys bought me a hair salon?" she exclaimed. "Yes, we did," Frank confirmed with a grin. "It's all yours, Rachel." Tears of joy streamed down Rachel's face as she hugged Frank tightly. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Thank you so much." Frank patted her back and said, "You deserve it, Rachel. You've been working hard and we wanted to show you our appreciation. We hope this will help you achieve your dreams." Rachel smiled through her tears, feeling a renewed sense of purpose and excitement. She was grateful for the support and encouragement she had received from Frank and the charity workers. As the group stood outside the newly acquired salon, they watched as the workers put up a brand new sign that read, Rachel's. Rachel felt a sense of pride and accomplishment as she gazed at the sign, realizing that her dream was finally coming to fruition. I can't believe this is happening, Rachel said, her voice trembling with emotion. It's real, Rachel, Frank said reassuringly, and it's all yours. Rachel couldn't stop smiling as she walked towards the entrance of the salon, her heart bursting with excitement. I want to offer free haircuts to all the homeless people in our community, she declared. Anytime they need it, no questions asked. The group looked at each other, all nodding in agreement. I'm not surprised at all, Frank said and smiled. The charity also continued to grow, and Frank finally found a purpose in life. He learned to live in the civilian world, had a place to call home, and a job he loved, helping people in need. Frank and Rachel's charity had given hope to the homeless, and it showed that a little kindness can go a long way.
I stood at the podium, the microphone in front of me seeming to magnify the weight of the moment. My heart beat rapidly, the words I had prepared echoing in my head. The wedding reception was in full swing, guests were chatting, the laughter and clinking of glasses filling the air. But I wasn't thinking about the celebration. I had one thing on my mind, this speech. It was time to expose the truth. As I stood there, taking a deep breath, my eyes scanned the room, making sure everyone was paying attention. My parents were seated at the table looking calm and detached, but I could see the slight tension in their posture. They didn't know what was coming. No one did. I have something I need to share with you all, I began, my voice steady but firm. I could feel the room quieting, the guests sensing something significant was about to happen. My parents exchanged a confused glance, but I continued. Today, I stand before you, not just as a bride, but as someone who has fought hard to overcome my past. And it's time for the truth to come to light. I paused, letting the weight of my words settle in the air. The murmurs started almost immediately. I could feel the eyes of everyone in the room on me. Some were curious, others were concerned, but I knew I couldn't back down now. This was the moment I had been preparing for my whole life. I cleared my throat and looked down at the letter I had written, the one I had been holding on to for years. It was more than just a speech. It was a release. A way to finally take control of my own story. My parents had always controlled the narrative of my life, but not anymore. I know you all know me as a successful young author, I continued, my voice growing more confident. What you may not know is that my debut novel was inspired by real-life experiences. Experiences that I've had to keep hidden for far too long. There was a collective gasp from the crowd. I saw some heads turn toward my parents in confusion. They didn't understand what was happening, but I was ready to reveal everything. I looked up from the letter and made sure my parents were watching me. My book, the one that won a Newcomer's Award and became a bestseller, was based on my life. The protagonist, much like me, grew up mistreated by her parents, constantly told she was inferior to her sibling. My life, growing up in this house, was a nightmare. At that moment, the room erupted into murmurs. The crowd couldn't believe what they were hearing. I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and relief wash over me. It was happening. The truth was finally coming out. I saw my mother's face go pale as she realized what I was saying. "Violet, stop it," she cried out, but I ignored her, pressing on. "I was always the one left behind," I said, my voice now filled with raw emotion. Whenever the family went out, I was left behind to take care of the house. I wasn't allowed to have a life, a future. And when I was 15, they threw me out of the house to live with my grandmother. That's when I really learned what it meant to survive. The room went silent. Everyone was hanging on my every word. I could feel the stares of my guests, the disbelief in their eyes. It was a moment I had dreamed of for so long, but it still felt surreal. My parents, who had always seemed untouchable, were now being exposed for who they truly were. They made me leave high school early, forced me to work and support their household while also taking care of my grandfather. My parents, they didn't even care. I paused, taking a deep breath. And now, after all these years, they have the nerve to show up here today, asking for money, for support. After everything they did to me, after everything they put me through, I will not be their daughter anymore. My voice was steady, but the anger I had carried for years was finally breaking free. My hands trembled slightly as I held the letter, the words on the page now feeling like a declaration of freedom. "I am done with them," I said, my voice ringing out clear and loud. I've held on to the hope that one day they would realize how much they hurt me, but that day will never come. They have no remorse, no understanding of the damage they've caused. So, from this point on, I'm severing all ties with them. I will not call them my parents anymore. Please go away, disappear from my life. The crowd was stunned. There was no more noise in the room, just a deafening silence. My parents were speechless, their faces a mix of confusion and anger. My mother opened her mouth to speak, but the words caught in her throat. "You're making a mistake," she finally said, her voice trembling. "We did everything for you. We gave you a roof over your head. We paid for your education." I couldn't hold back anymore. "No, you didn't," I snapped. "You only ever cared about how much money I could make for you. You pushed me into a career I didn't want. You made me sacrifice my dreams just so you could brag to your friends. That's not love. That's control." There was a moment of tense silence before my brother, who had been sitting quietly, stood up. His face was red with anger. "Enough," he said, his voice booming across the room. "Just stop it. You're lying. Don't try to manipulate her anymore." The shock on my parents' faces was almost comical. My usually calm brother Barton had never raised his voice like this before. But now, the anger and frustration he had kept bottled up for years came pouring out. "I had my own struggles too," he said, his voice shaking. "I wasn't treated any better. When Violet was kicked out, I wanted to leave with her. But Grandma stopped me, told me to stay and think about my future." Barton turned to face our parents, his expression hard. "You didn't care about anyone except yourselves. You made us both suffer, but we're done now. I'm done with you. And Violet is right. We're severing ties. You'll never manipulate us again." The room was in shock. My parents, who had once seemed so untouchable, were now being exposed for the toxic people they truly were. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized that this moment, this decision, was not just for me. It was for my brother, for anyone who had ever been abused by their family, for all the children who had suffered in silence. My mother's face twisted with fury. "You can't do this," she yelled. "We're your parents. We gave you everything." But my brother didn't flinch. "You gave us nothing but pain," he said quietly, his voice steady but firm. I looked at him, gratitude filling my heart. Finally, he understood. Finally, we were on the same page. The moment was heavy with emotion as my parents, humiliated and defeated, turned to leave. They ran toward the exit, their faces red with shame. Cameras clicked as the reporters, who had been discreetly observing, captured the entire scene. The backlash would be swift. It was clear now that my parents would never again be able to show their faces in public. I turned to my husband, who had quietly watched the whole scene unfold. His face was full of understanding and support. He smiled at me warmly, the kind of smile that made my heart swell. "You did the right thing," he said softly. "You freed yourself." I nodded, feeling a sense of relief wash over me. The burden that had weighed on me for so long was finally lifted. I had taken control of my life, and now I could finally move forward, unencumbered by the past. It's been years since that day. My life has changed in ways I could never have imagined. I'm now a wife and a mother of 2 beautiful children. My husband, a kind and compassionate doctor, left his prestigious position at the hospital to run his family's clinic, giving him more time to spend with us. Together, we've built a home full of love and laughter, I still think about my grandmother often, the woman who saved me when I had nowhere else to go. She passed away last year, but the lessons she taught me live on in everything I do. She taught me to value myself, to never let anyone tell me I wasn't worth it, and to always fight for what I believe in. As for my parents, I hear from a trusted friend in the media that they've moved to a remote rural area, trying to live quietly after the scandal. They've lost the social status they once had, and it seems that the shame they brought upon themselves will follow them for the rest of their lives. But none of that matters to me anymore. I've built a new life, a new family, and nothing will ever change that. My past may have been painful, but it's no longer my future. Tomorrow is my grandmother's birthday, and we'll celebrate it with a special dinner. My children are already excited about it, and I know that with them by my side, I can face anything that comes my way. In the end, I've learned that no matter how dark the past may be, there is always a way to move forward. And I will keep moving forward, for myself, for my children, and for the family that has always supported me.
Anna strolled gently through the park. She hadn't visited in such a long time because the memories it held were too painful for her to confront. In the past, she enjoyed blissful walks here with her entire family, a simple joy she had taken for granted. Anna and Matthew shared a love that was deep and unyielding. They had faced many challenges together, like coming to terms with the fact that Matthew's battle with testicular cancer would prevent them from having biological children. Anna herself had suffered 2 miscarriages, yet despite these setbacks, their bond remained strong. Their home was filled with love, laughter, and joy, setting an example for many that love can overcome even the toughest obstacles. As time passed, Anna marked her 40th birthday and Matthew his 44th. Though they never openly discussed it, both longed to hear the laughter of children in their home, to feel the hustle and bustle of tiny feet. They decided to adopt. At the children's home, among many hopeful faces, a lively 3-year-old named Destiny captivated Anna. Despite her limp, Destiny's radiant smile and boundless energy touched Anna deeply. This spirited little girl, who faced her own set of challenges, seemed perfect for them. Anna felt an instant connection, as if Destiny was destined to be their daughter. A young girl with thin, slightly bent legs approached them. She might have been struggling to walk, but her eyes, large and intensely blue, bore into them with an innocent seriousness. Overwhelmed with emotion, Anna knelt down to meet her gaze. "Hello? My name is Anna. What's your name, sweetie?" The little girl examined Anna closely. After a few thoughtful moments, she gently wrapped her arms around Anna and whispered, "Mama." Subtly, Anna felt a tug. It was the director of the home. "Mrs. Myers, we need to move on." A teacher gently tried to separate the girl from Anna, but the little one became distressed. Anna's heart felt heavy and constricted. Once they were a bit further away, the director spoke hastily. "I'm so sorry. Destiny has some health issues. We can find you another child, a healthy one." Anna pulled her hand away from the director's grip and looked towards Matthew, trying to read his expression, which remained inscrutable. Without a word, Anna quickly headed towards the exit. That day marked the end of her inner tranquility. She was haunted by the image of the little girl, unable to eat or sleep. The child's cries echoed constantly in her ears. After watching Anna's anguish for 2 weeks, Matthew finally broke the silence. "Anna, please tell me what to do. How can I help?" She looked up, eyes red and swollen from tears. "Please, find out what's happening with that girl." Matthew stared at her in disbelief. "Is all this pain because of her?" Tears flowed freely down Anna's face as she replied, "Matthew, she appears in my dreams every night. Her cries are the only thing I hear. It's tearing me apart." He didn't respond with words. Instead, he embraced her tightly, offering silent comfort as they sat together, lost in their thoughts. The following day seemed just like any other until Anna received a mysterious phone call. "Anna, come quickly. We're at the cafe in the park." Before Anna could ask who "we" were or why they were there, Matthew had already hung up. "What's he doing there? And who's with him?" Anna pondered, feeling a mix of confusion and concern. It was out of character for Matthew to be so cryptic. A sinking feeling in her stomach made her pray for his safety. Whatever the situation, she just wanted him to be all right. In a stroke of bad luck, an accident had clogged the roads, making it impossible to get a taxi. Without any other option, Anna decided to run. She dashed through the crowded streets, dodging pedestrians and weaving through traffic until she reached the park. Racing to the cafe on the far side, she hastily pushed open the door, trying to compose herself as she entered. And there, to her astonishment, was Matthew seated by a window. Opposite him was the little girl from the orphanage, happily enjoying an ice cream cone, attempting to converse with Matthew. Though he seemed to struggle with understanding her, he laughed heartily. Anna approached him, her steps slowing as she neared the table. As Matthew looked up and saw her, Destiny's eyes followed, lighting up as she greeted, "Mommy." From that moment on, Anna and Destiny became inseparable. Taking a deep breath, Anna turned to Matthew, her voice filled with emotion. "Now that she's here, I hope you understand. I can't bear the thought of letting her go, of hearing her cry again. Please, we need to do something. I know we can make this work." Over the next few years, Anna and Matthew, fueled by love and determination, sought out the best pediatric clinics for Destiny. They were committed to one goal, to ensure Destiny could walk without any discomfort. Their hard work, coupled with many treatments and relentless perseverance, bore fruit. Destiny no longer walked with a limp, and the hardships she once faced faded away like a distant memory. Although Destiny held immense love for both her parents, Anna couldn't help but notice her slight inclination towards Matthew. Maybe it was a father-daughter bond, or perhaps just Destiny's nature, but she always eagerly awaited his return from work and missed him dearly when he was away. Anna's heart would sometimes twinge with jealousy, seeing the affectionate embraces and kisses Destiny showered upon Matthew when he came home. Her feelings would inadvertently reflect on her face, not escaping Destiny's perceptive eyes. Sensing her mother's emotions, Destiny would quickly run to Anna, reassuring her with, "Mommy, I love you so much, and I love Daddy too." These genuine expressions of love from Destiny were always enough to wash away any of Anna's fleeting feelings of jealousy. A few months into Destiny's life with them, Anna often wondered how they ever lived without this precious child in their lives. The thought that their path might have never crossed was unfathomable. By the time Destiny turned 6, she was firmly rooted in the belief that she was born into this family and that Anna and Matthew were her true parents. Around the same time, Matthew received an enticing job offer in a different city, a promotion in fact. The decision before them was significant. The couple decided to take up the job opportunity without much hesitation. However, one of their main concerns was the close-knit nature of smaller towns. They worried that someone might inadvertently reveal to Destiny that she wasn't their biological daughter. In smaller communities where everyone knows everyone else, secrets have a way of coming out. Upon their move, Destiny quickly blossomed into her new environment. She emerged as one of the school's star students, excelling academically and taking part in a myriad of activities. Her days were filled to the brim, balancing her studies with hobbies and extracurriculars. Despite her busy schedule, Destiny remained a loving and caring daughter. For Anna and Matthew, the line between adopted and biological had blurred a long time ago. They loved Destiny with every fiber of their being and felt as if she had always been a part of their lives. Middle school was a whirlwind of change for Destiny. With 5th grade came her first taste of leadership as she took on the role of class representative. But it wasn't just academics and responsibilities that marked his face. Destiny's head was often in the stars. Her newfound love for astronomy saw her spending countless nights with her telescope, admiring the celestial wonders and dreaming of distant galaxies. High school was an intricate tapestry of experiences for Destiny, navigating the maze-like corridors, teaming with older students, discovering her persuasive voice in the debate club, and forming deep bonds defined these years. It was during 10th grade that she met Maya. The two quickly became inseparable, their friendship providing solace amidst the high-pressure environment of late-night study sessions, exam preparations, and the flurry of prom night planning. But as graduation day dawned, Destiny, who once sported innocent pigtails in her younger years, had evolved into a poised young woman with dreams extending beyond the constellations. The day was destined for celebration, making the end of an era and the beginning of new adventures. But fate had other plans. Amidst the crowd, a mysterious woman approached Destiny. With eyes filled with years of untold stories and a voice that trembled with emotion, she introduced herself as Destiny's birth mother. As she unraveled tales of her trials and the gut-wrenching decision to let Destiny go, the young graduate was awash with a flood of emotions. "Why didn't they ever tell you?" the woman asked, her voice dripping with a mixture of accusation and sorrow. "Shouldn't you have known? They kept it a secret from you." Torn between shock, betrayal, and curiosity, Destiny's joyous day took a dark turn. The woman, sensing her vulnerable state, urged Destiny to join her, enticing her with promises of truth and introduction to a life she had been oblivious to. Destiny, struggling to process this avalanche of revelations, looked deep into the woman's pleading eyes. The celebratory atmosphere of graduation faded for Destiny, replaced by a storm of confusion and sadness. That evening, she sought answers from Anna and Matthew. Understanding the weight of the situation and the inevitability of the truth surfacing in today's digital age, they decided it was time for an open and heartfelt conversation. She felt overwhelmed and unsure of how to broach the subject, but with everyone present, she took a deep breath and began. "Mom, Dad, who was that woman I met earlier today?" The room was heavy with silence. Anna and Matthew exchanged glances, their face betraying a mix of fear and guilt. Destiny's heart raced as she awaited an answer, their silence confirming her worst suspicions. Swirling emotions threatened to overwhelm her. Anger, confusion, betrayal, they all fought for dominance. But before the emotions consumed her, she pushed for clarity. "I love you both so much. You're my world. But why hide the truth from me?" Matthew took a deep breath, his brow furrowed as he sought the right words. "We didn't deliberately lie, Destiny. We chose to withhold information that we felt might hurt you." "Withhold?" Destiny's voice rose, and she began pacing, her agitation clear. "So now, how should I feel, knowing that another woman has been out there, yearning for me, mourning for me, while I lived in blissful ignorance?" Anna hesitated before saying, "We can't be certain that everything she told you was accurate, Destiny." But the rift had already formed. Destiny grew distant, often coming home late or not at all, claiming to be at a friend's. Anna's suspicions grew. She believed Destiny might be seeing her birth mother. Destiny began to shut herself off entirely, not uttering a word to either parent. Matthew tried time and time again to bridge the gap, but each attempt was met with an icy wall of indifference. The atmosphere at home was stifling, a stark contrast to their once harmonious life. Words were exchanged sparingly, mostly about household necessities. To add to the pain, Destiny faced taunts from her peers about her adoption. "One day you were hungry and homeless, and then they took pity on you." Particularly spiteful classmates sneered at her one day. Then a heartbreaking day arrived. Destiny vanished, taking with her all the valuables from their home. All she left behind was a note for Anna and Matthew. "I'm going where I'm needed. My birth mother is sick and penniless. I need to be there for her. Don't search for me. You managed without me once, you can do it again." And that was the moment Anna's world shifted once more. Feeling numb and hollow since Destiny's departure, Anna had lost her purpose. Friends couldn't understand why Anna and Matthew never tried to find Destiny, but Anna believed in respecting Destiny's choices. A glimmer of hope arrived in the form of a letter and a photograph. It showed Destiny, radiant with happiness, standing beside the mysterious woman. The accompanying note conveyed Destiny's newfound joy with her biological mother. This revelation, while comforting, couldn't stave off life's harsh realities. The stress took its toll on Matthew, leading to 2 heart attacks in quick succession. Just like that, Anna found herself alone. Years of solitude made Anna retreat inwards. The walls of her home echoed the deafening silence of her heartache, pushing her outside for solace. She'd often walk by that memorable park, the site of countless family memories, but she couldn't muster the courage to step inside. One day, engrossed in her thoughts, Anna was jolted back to reality by a tug on her sleeve. A frail girl, no older than 10, was returning Anna's dropped wallet. The child's ragged clothes and thin frame indicated neglect, sparking a protective instinct in Anna. Anna tried to engage her in conversation, but the girl's silence and gestures suggested she might be deaf or mute. "Want some ice cream?" The girl's eyes lit up with a nod. They approached a nearby stall, and Anna ordered ice cream along with some cookies. As Anna rummaged through her wallet to pay, the girl's gaze fixed on a photograph tucked inside. She pointed to the image and whispered, "Mama," her eyes filling with tears. Startled, Anna asked, "What's wrong, sweetie? Why are you crying?" But the girl only repeated, "Mama," her voice choked with emotion, her fingers still directed at the photo. Anna, confused, tried to comfort her. A small crowd began to gather, their expressions a mix of concern and curiosity. A woman stepped forward, gently patting the little girl's back. "That's Sally," she informed Anna. "She lives on our street. Her mom, Destiny, is in the hospital, and her grandma isn't really looking out for her. She's been wandering about, probably looking for her mom. A neighbor's dog frightened her some months ago, and she's been quiet since. Destiny has been trying to handle everything, but it's clear Sally needs medical attention." Anna gasped at the mention of Destiny's name. "Please, can you take me to Destiny?" she implored. Inside the hospital, Destiny sat on a bed, grappling with the pain from her appendicitis. "Darn, why today of all days?" Destiny wondered. She thought about the 2-week paycheck she was expecting. Meanwhile, Sally was at home by herself. Well, not exactly alone. Leslie, Destiny's mother, was there. But in Destiny's eyes, having Leslie around was like being alone. She was more concerned with her own needs than caring for others. When Destiny first met her biological mother, she felt a deep sympathy for her. Leslie portrayed herself as a victim, a woman tormented by her husband, barely scraping by, while trying to provide for young Destiny. Leslie had shared with Destiny that in her direst moment, social services had taken Destiny away, placing her in the children's home. Leslie was manipulative. She made Destiny believe that she'd been searching for her all her life, and that her adoptive parents had purposely hidden Destiny from her. Being young and impressionable, Destiny believed most of what Leslie said. After all, she saw resemblances between herself and Leslie. It didn't take long for Destiny to see Leslie's true colors. Overwhelmed with shame for betraying her adoptive parents, Destiny couldn't face them again. When her adoptive father later passed away, the weight of guilt was even heavier. She felt that her adoptive mother must detest her by now. When Destiny met Nate, he felt like a refreshing change in her life. His optimism and encouragement were like a beacon for her. Upon learning of her pregnancy, Destiny excitedly shared the news with Nate. His reaction surprised her. "That's amazing!" he exclaimed and celebrated the news by getting drunk alongside Leslie. Their joint celebrations began to occur with alarming frequency. When Destiny reached the 8th month of her pregnancy, she had enough. She threw Nate out of the apartment, an apartment she'd been shouldering rent for. Leslie wasn't pleased. Having Nate around made it easier to pressure Destiny for money. As Destiny tried to rise from her hospital bed, a concerned nurse in her 50s hurried over, asking, "Where do you think you're going, young lady?" "I have to get home," Destiny responded urgently. "My little girl is all alone there." "You had surgery just yesterday. You can't leave now," the nurse exclaimed. But Destiny was adamant. "I have to go." She attempted to lift herself, clutching the bed's headboard. She barely registered the nurse swiftly administering an injection. Suddenly, a wave of heaviness overcame her. Her eyelids grew heavy, and a calm tranquility washed over her. "It's all right," the nurse reassured her, gently easing Destiny back onto the bed. There. It seems the anesthesia hasn't completely worn off. Rest now, sweetie. You'll be back on your feet in no time." Destiny's eyes fluttered open, instantly recalling her earlier resolve. While morning had greeted her earlier awakening, now dusk draped the room in a subdued light. "Looks like it's a quiet time now. This might be my chance," she thought. Feeling reinvigorated, she managed to stand with ease. But as Destiny prepared to make her escape, the door to the room swung open. The family of the woman sharing her room burst in with their exuberant greetings. With her exit now blocked, Destiny had little choice but to resume her position.
feigning sleep. Soon after, a young voice chirped, "Mom? Mommy?" Still pretending to be asleep, Destiny's lips curled into a small smile. "Kids' voices sound so alike," she mused, momentarily lost in thought about Sally and the trauma that had stolen her voice. She fervently wished to one day get Sally the help she needed. Suddenly, a tiny hand gripped hers, pulling Destiny from her reverie. Eyes wide open, she exclaimed, "Sally? Sally!" Despite the sudden surge of joy, pain jabbed at her side when she tried to sit up too quickly. Wincing, she took a moment to recover, then pulled Sally into a tender embrace, tears forming. "How did you manage to find me here? It's so far from home." As Destiny peppered Sally with kisses, she was oblivious to another figure in the room. Anna, standing at the foot of the bed, softly spoke up. "Hello, Destiny." Startled, Destiny's gaze met Anna's. The weight of realization, remorse, and relief all converged at once. "Mom?" Tears flowed freely as Destiny confronted the enormity of her past decisions. The pain and regret evident in her eyes, she whispered apologies to Anna, seeking the forgiveness she felt she hardly deserved. Gently easing herself down, Destiny dropped to her knees, a cascade of tears blurring her vision. Anna, with immediate concern, helped her to her feet and enveloped her in a comforting embrace. Anna's voice, laced with deep emotion, broke the heavy silence. "From the very first day you came into my life, Destiny, you were a beacon of happiness. Despite the heartaches I faced with miscarriages and the pain of losing my husband, I always believed fate brought you to me." She continued, "When you left, my heart was shattered, yes, but anger of hatred never clouded my feelings for you. I understood your motivations, even if I didn't agree with them. You sought to help your biological mother. She had her struggles, and while I can't condone all her choices, I'm grateful to her for one undeniable gift. You." Anna's heartfelt words pierced Destiny's heart, drawing fresh tears. Their pain and love intermingled in the silence that followed. Breaking the stillness, Destiny whispered, "Mom, I'm so sorry. My youth and emotions clouded my judgment. I've passed by our home many times and even visited Dad's grave, but fear and shame kept me from facing you." Anna pondered Destiny's confession, then replied, "We all err. Some mistakes just weigh more than others. Yet rarely are these missteps entirely our own doing. I want you back home, Destiny. You remain the most precious part of my life, regardless of past actions." Days later, as Destiny prepared for discharge from the hospital, Sally clutched her side, adorned in a new, beautiful dress. Standing beside them, Anna looked visibly rejuvenated, as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. "Ready to head home, you two?" Anna's voice carried a warmth that felt like the embrace of a blanket. "Absolutely! Home! Grandma! Mommy!" Sally cheered, her eyes sparkling. The car journey began in a cocoon of quiet, but soon Sally, with the curiosity of a child, began bombarding Anna with questions. Anna responded to each with patience and love. Eventually, Sally's gaze turned to Destiny. "Mommy, why haven't we ever been to Grandma Anna's house before? I really want to spend time with her." Caught off guard, Destiny struggled to find words. Anna, sensing the tension, swiftly intervened. "Honey, your mommy was taking care of Grandma Leslie for a while." Sally's face crinkled in displeasure. "I don't really like Grandma Leslie." "Why do you say that, sweetie?" Destiny inquired, her voice filled with concern. "She often says mean things to me." Anna, ever the peacemaker, chimed in. "Sweetheart, Grandma Leslie has had her own struggles. She might have had bad days, but I promise she won't hurt you anymore." Reassured, Sally's attention shifted outside, her eyes dancing over the whirl of colors and shapes passing by. Arriving at Anna's welcoming abode, Sally's youthful energy propelled her out of the car and towards the house. Destiny, filled with emotion, walked up to Anna, wrapping her in a heartfelt embrace. After a few beats, she pulled away, eyes glistening. "Thank you, Mom. Truly, for another chance." Destiny and Sally began their new chapter in Anna's cozy home. Though the early days were filled with adjusting and settling in, Destiny couldn't push away the thoughts of Leslie, her biological mother. The past pain still lingered, but as weeks turned to days, Destiny's concern for Leslie grew. Days into their stay, Anna broached the topic of Leslie, suggesting perhaps it was time Destiny informed her of their whereabouts. Nervously, Destiny penned a letter to her birth mother, sparing Anna the details of its contents. With Sally's birthday around the corner, Destiny tried to divert her mind. She hoped that immersing herself in birthday preparations would help her move on. One afternoon, Anna went shopping, gathering groceries and picking out colorful wrapping paper for Sally's birthday gifts. As she exited the store, a familiar yet disheveled figure caught her eye. A woman, looking forlorn, held a plastic cup with a few coins, her eyes cast down. Drawing closer, Anna recognized the woman as Leslie. Though many would expect Anna to feel anger or resentment towards Leslie, she felt only compassion. Leslie's current state was a stark contrast to the stories she had heard. That night, the warm glow of Anna's dining room was punctuated by the delicious aroma of dinner. Destiny, Sally, and Anna worked together, laughing and chatting as they prepared salads and decorated a birthday cake. The house echoed with love and understanding, the kind only family can provide. The table was adorned with vibrant dishes, and the room was filled with the scent of freshly baked bread and the tantalizing aroma of the dinner. Anna paused for a moment, glancing at her wristwatch, then at Destiny and Sally with a mysterious twinkle in her eyes. "All right, everything looks wonderful," Anna said with a smile. "But before we start, we have one more thing to do. We're expecting a guest tonight. I know it might be hard, especially for you, Destiny, but it's time to let go of the past and focus on the future." Curiosity and a hint of apprehension filled Destiny's eyes as Anna walked to the front door. When it swung open, standing there was a figure Destiny immediately recognized, but she appeared so different. It was Leslie. Her hair, previously unkempt, was now neatly tied back. Her clothes, while simple, were clean, and her posture showed signs of weariness. Yet the most striking change was in her eyes, which reflected a mix of hope and uncertainty. Destiny's heart raced as she took in the sight of her biological mother, transformed yet unmistakably the same. When Anna ran into Leslie outside the store, they ended up talking for a while. Leslie opened up about the wrong choices she had made and admitted she had hurt many people. With tears in her eyes, she told Anna she was ready to walk away from their lives forever if that's what Anna wanted. She sincerely wished for forgiveness, not necessarily to be part of their lives again, but to know that there was a chance for a fresh start somewhere else. Anna, ever the compassionate soul, looked into Leslie's tear-filled eyes and spoke from the heart. "You know, Leslie, forgiveness is a powerful thing. It doesn't mean that what you did was okay, but it means that we're choosing love, understanding, and a new beginning over holding on to past hurts." Leslie, shaking slightly from the weight of her regrets, could barely find her voice. "I don't deserve it. After all I've done, after the mess I've made of Destiny's life, and yours." Anna gently placed a hand on Leslie's arm. "It's not about deserving. Everyone has the capability to change, to grow. It's about recognizing your mistakes and genuinely wanting to make amends. I can see that in you now." Leslie broke down. "I've been so lost, Anna. I've hurt so many people, especially Destiny and that little girl. I want to change, but I don't know where to begin." Anna, with a kindness that came naturally to her, said, "Let's start with dinner tonight." Anna, always one to see the good in others, felt that Leslie, despite her past, was truly remorseful. She believed that everyone deserved a chance at redemption, even Leslie. Seeing the worn-out woman in front of her, Anna made a spontaneous decision. She decided to help Leslie, not just with kind words but with actions. They first stopped by a nearby clothing store. Anna picked out some comfortable yet stylish clothes for Leslie, wanting her to feel confident and valued. Next, they headed to Leslie's rundown apartment. The place was cluttered, and it was evident that Leslie had been struggling. With a gentle voice, Anna told her to gather her things. As Leslie packed, she was overwhelmed by emotion. She looked up at Anna, tears forming in her eyes, trying to find the right words. Before she could say anything, Anna spoke, her voice filled with warmth and understanding. "You're Destiny's mother, too. No matter our past, I believe everyone deserves a chance at love and family. and I think you need Destiny in your life just as much as she might need you." The birthday party was filled with warmth and good cheer. There was the sweet sound of laughter echoing in the room, and an array of delectable dishes adorned the table. Leslie was often overwhelmed with emotion. Every so often, she'd get up, tears streaming down her face, and embrace Anna tightly, as if to say thank you without words. As days turned into weeks, Destiny dove headfirst into her college studies, passionately chasing her dreams. Sally, with her infectious enthusiasm, quickly made friends at her new school. The house echoed with their cheerful stories from school and college when they returned home. Meanwhile, Anna and Leslie spent their days together, chatting about everything under the sun. They reminisced about old times, shared amusing anecdotes, and occasionally indulged in some light-hearted gossip. Anna had endured a comfortable life for herself and her family, thanks to her and her late husband's wide financial decisions. But after a while, Leslie began to feel a bit restless. One day, over a cup of tea, she admitted to Anna that she felt uneasy living off her generosity. She yearned to earn her own living and contribute in some way. Anna understood. So when they learned that the local store was hiring, Leslie applied and was soon packing groceries with care and pride. Every evening, the house came alive with chatter. Destiny and Sally would talk about their day. Leslie would share funny incidents from the store, and Anna would recount memories. They were building a new chapter of their lives, one day at a time, cementing their bond as a true family. Several months had passed since Leslie started working. One day, she mustered the courage to approach Anna with a proposal. "I've been thinking," Leslie began hesitantly, "maybe I should start contributing to the household expenses, like paying some rent?" Anna looked taken aback. Her eyes widened a bit, and she seemed momentarily lost for words. After a pause, she finally responded, "Leslie, we're family now. Family doesn't charge each other rent." Leslie lowered her gaze, her face reflecting her internal struggle. "I just want to contribute," she murmured, "to be a part of everything." Anna approached Leslie and gently lifted her chin. "You are a part of everything, every day, in every laugh we share and every meal we cook together. Your presence and the love you give to Destiny and Sally are more valuable than any financial contribution." Tears welled up in Leslie's eyes as she nodded, understanding the depth of their bond. They hugged tightly, with Anna whispering, "Let's never talk about this again. We're family, and that's all that matters." For the next 2 years, life flowed in a tranquil manner for everyone in the family. However, this peaceful period was abruptly interrupted when Anna was diagnosed with uncommon illness that necessitated immediate hospital care. Upon further medical examinations, it was revealed that her kidneys were deteriorating rapidly. The doctors provided a somber outlook, emphasizing the urgent need for a kidney transplant. Unfortunately, the waiting list for a kidney was overwhelmingly long, and time was not on Anna's side. Seeing Anna's distress, Leslie, without a second thought, left her job and volunteered to be Anna's kidney donor. The depth of this selfless act brought tears to Anna's eyes. She tried to dissuade Leslie, mentioning that she didn't need to make such a sacrifice, especially if other donors became available. However, Leslie firmly responded, expressing her unwavering commitment to helping Anna, regardless of other potential options. Over the next few weeks, Leslie underwent a series of tests to determine her compatibility as a donor. The results came back positive. She was a match for Anna. This news brought a glimmer of hope to the family during an otherwise dark time. Leslie took Destiny's hand and said, "Your mom has given us so much. This is my chance to give back, to show how much I appreciate all she's done." The day of the surgery was a nerve-wracking one. Anna and Leslie, both prepared for the procedure, shared a tender moment before being wheeled into their respective operating rooms. "You have a big heart, Leslie," Anna murmured, her eyes wet with tears. "I hope you know how much this means to me." Leslie simply smiled, squeezing Anna's hand. "I know, and it means the world to me too." The surgery lasted for several hours, with Destiny and Sally waiting anxiously in the hospital's waiting room. When it was over, the doctors delivered the good news. Life resumed, but now there was a noticeable difference in the atmosphere. The family seemed to radiate a newfound vibrancy and unity. Leslie, who had once played many roles in the family, blossomed into an even more nurturing figure. She not only embraced the role of a doting grandmother, cherishing every moment with Destiny and Sally, but also became a confidant and trusted friend to Anna. Her presence was a comforting pillar that everyone leaned on, knowing they would find warmth and guidance. Destiny's journey had been a whirlwind of late nights, study sessions, and personal growth. College had molded her, challenging her academically and personally, helping her discover her passions and potential. As the days sped by, her graduation day loomed on the horizon, symbolizing the culmination of years of hard work and dedication. Anna slowly made her way to the familiar park one day, each step brimming with memories of the past. The gentle rustling of the leaves and the distant laughter of children playing brought her back to the very day she met Destiny. The park was not just an ordinary place for Anna, it was a testament to life's unexpected turns and the power of human connection. As she meandered through the winding paths, Anna paused by the very bench where their lives had intertwined. She could almost picture Destiny's young face, filled with innocence and curiosity. The memory felt like both a moment and a lifetime ago. Being at this nostalgic spot, Anna was overwhelmed by the understanding of how kindness and forgiveness had shaped her life. Through every challenge, Anna had chosen the path of understanding and compassion, and in doing so, she had created a legacy of love and warmth around her. A deep sense of gratitude welled up inside Anna, gratitude for the lessons, for the people in her life, and for the grace that had guided her. Raising her face towards the sky, she let out a heartfelt smile, one that reflected all the contentment in her heart. Taking a deep breath, she felt the peace of the moment wash over her. With her heart full, Anna turned from the park, ready to continue her journey, carrying with her the wisdom and love from all her yesterdays.